The buzz around AI in the workplace right now is, well, it's pretty intense, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You can't really escape it.
Is it truly the next industrial revolution, fundamentally changing how we work? Or is it, like some suggest, maybe a bit overhyped right now?
That's the big question. We're seeing these reports painting a picture of, like, exponential growth, this idea of super agency.
Right, where AI massively boosts what individuals can do. But then you've got a Nobel laureate saying, hold on, let's look at the actual numbers, offering a much more skeptical view.
Exactly. A more tempered perspective on the immediate economic hit.
So today on the Deep Dive, we're going to unpack these, well, really contrasting perspectives on AI's impact,
Right.
where it is now, where it might be going.
And we've got some interesting sources to look at. There are recent McKinsey reports definitely leaning optimistic, painting this grand vision.
Yeah, very bullish. And then we have the research from Nobel laureate Daron Acemoglu, who brings a much more cautious, sort of data-first perspective.
A bit of a reality check, perhaps.
Perhaps. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights from both sides. We want you to understand not just what they're saying, but maybe why these different outlooks exist.
And crucially, what it all means for you, for your work, your organization, like right now.
We'll dig into the actual economic impact, the readiness of employees, which is surprising, and the critical role of leadership in navigating all this.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The big vision.
Let's do it. Let's unpack McKinsey's view first. They really lean into AI being a historic game changer.
They don't hold back, do they? Comparing it to the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly. Big comparisons.
Yeah.
And they put a number on it, projecting a staggering $4.4 trillion in added productivity growth potential.
Yeah.
Just from corporate use cases.
Wow. That's it. That's a huge number.
It is. It's this vision of AI super agency where people like you and me, empowered by AI, just become hyper-productive, super creative. And the report even warns leaders, saying the risk is not thinking too big, but rather too small. Basically, don't be timid.
Okay, so that's a bold claim. What's the tech underpinning that kind of, optimism? What makes them so confident?
Well, that's where it gets fascinating. McKinsey points to these rapid, demonstrable tech advancements, like enhanced intelligence and reasoning.
Right, they give examples, don't they? Like GPT-4 passing the bar exam.
Yeah, and not just passing, but scoring in the top 10%. And getting 90% correct on the U.S. medical licensing exam.
So it's not just about knowing facts, it's about, applying knowledge, reasoning.
Precisely. And then there's this leap in what they call agentic AI.
Agentic AI. So AI that can actually do things, take actions.
Exactly. Autonomously take actions, complete complex tasks across different systems. They mentioned Salesforce's Agentforce, aiming to create a kind of digital workforce.
Okay, like a sophisticated assistant for specific jobs.
Sort of, yeah. And then there's multimodality. Models like Google's Gemini Live have these incredibly human-like conversations. Or OpenAI's Zora.
Oh, the text-to-video one.
Yeah, turning text prompts into, pretty stunningly realistic videos.
So these aren't just small tweaks. McKinsey's saying these are fundamental leaps in what AI can actually handle.
That's their argument. Significant leaps in capability. But it's not just the tech that's moving fast. This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Okay.
McKinsey's research found employees, they're surprisingly ready, even eager for AI.
Really? More so than you'd expect?
Apparently. Get this, 94% of employees and nearly all C-suite leaders, 99%, say they have some familiarity with GenAI tools, ChatGPT, things like that.
Okay, so awareness is high. That makes sense.
But here's the disconnect. C-suite leaders estimate only about 4% of their employees use GenAI for, say, 30% or more of their daily work.
Only 4%. That seems low.
Right. Because employees self-report that figure to be 3 times higher, around 12%.
Ah, okay. So employees are using it much more under the radar than leaders realize.
Seems like it. And over half, 59%, fall into these optimistic groups McKinsey calls Zoomers or Bloomers.
Yeah.
Basically people who want AI deployed fast or want to help shape how it's used responsibly.
Interesting. So the workforce isn't necessarily resistant.
Quite the opposite. And crucially, they want more formal training.
Right.
They see training as the best way to boost adoption.
So the message is, the workforce is ready, perhaps even ahead of leadership's perception, and they're asking for the tools and training.
Exactly. It sounds like they're practically knocking on the door saying, let us use this more.
Okay, so that's a very positive picture from McKinsey. powerful tech, eager workforce. But let's connect this to the bigger economic picture. Because Darren Acemoglu, the Nobel laureate, offers a rather stark counterpoint, doesn't he?
He really does.
Yeah.
Especially regarding the scale of the near-term economic impact.
Right. While McKinsey talks trillions, Acemoglu projects that AI will automate just 5% of all tasks and add just 1% to global GDP this decade.
Wow. 1% GDP growth this decade. That's much more modest.
Much more. And he contrasts it sharply with the internet. He argues the internet's transformative impact, new ways to communicate, new goods, new services, that was clear very early on. Whereas Acemoglu asserts that AI, well, so far, it hasn't really produced applications that are critical for the production process or for generating new goods and services that are going to be hugely valuable.
So he's basically saying, show me the money. Show me the new value being created at scale, not just potential efficiency.
Pretty much. He's grounding it in tangible economic output, not just the potential of the technology itself.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit more. What does Acemoglu see as the fundamental limitation right now?
Yeah.
Why isn't it having that bigger impact yet, in his view?
He really emphasizes this idea of ground truth.
Ground truth, meaning?
Meaning situations where there's a clear, verifiable right or wrong answer. He points to things like AlphaGo mastering Go or AlphaFold predicting protein structures. There's an objective target, a definite success state.
Right, like solving a puzzle or winning a game.
Exactly. But he stresses, and this is key, that no task that we perform in reality is just recounting already established knowledge or playing a parlor game.
Okay, so real-world work is messier.
Much messier. It involves what he calls tacit knowledge. The stuff that's hard to write down, plus judgment, social interaction, social intelligence.
Things that are uniquely human, perhaps?
That's his argument. Things that are, he says, still beyond the capabilities of AI. Think about negotiating a complex deal.
Or managing a team through a tough time.
Exactly. Or creatively solving a problem no one's seen before. These rely on nuance, empathy, judgment calls, not just pattern recognition on existing data.
Right. Those hard-to-learn human skills.
Precisely. And because of this, he makes a pretty bold prediction. He does not expect any occupation that we have today to have been eliminated in 5 or 10 years' time.
No occupations eliminated in 5-10 years. That directly challenges the narrative of mass unemployment being just around the corner.
It really does. It suggests AI is more likely to be a tool that changes parts of jobs rather than eliminating entire roles wholesale, at least in the near term.
Okay, so if it's not about mass automation and job elimination, at least not yet, what should AI be doing, according to Acemoglu? What's the right way to use it?
He's very clear on this. He strongly argues against seeing AI primarily as a cost-cutting tool.
Just automating tasks to save money.
Yeah. He says, quite bluntly, no business has become the jewel of their industry by just cost-cutting.
Interesting point. So what's the alternative?
He pushes for a pro-human approach. That means focusing on using AI to create new goods and services, new ways of doing things for humans.
So innovation, augmentation, not just replacement or efficiency.
Exactly. Leveraging AI to help humans do new things, better things, things we couldn't do before, augmenting our capabilities.
Not just trimming the fat.
Right. He even expresses concern that many executives are maybe investing in AI blindly.
Blindly, why?
Because of the hype, the competitive pressure, FOMO maybe, fear of missing out, rather than having a really clear strategy for how AI synergizes with their workforce to create genuinely new value.
So he's worried we're chasing efficiency gains instead of the bigger prize, innovation.
That seems to be his core concern about the current trajectory.
Okay, so we have this clear tension. McKinsey's grand vision of imminent, huge transformation, and Acemoglu's more cautious, grounded view focused on current limitations and the need for human-centric innovation.
A real contrast in scale and focus.
But what's interesting is, even McKinsey, despite all their optimism, they do kind of acknowledge the current reality on the ground, don't they?
They do. You see hints of it. For instance, they admit that GenAI's reported effects on bottom-line impact are not yet material at the enterprise-wide level.
Not yet material, so the big profits aren't showing up broadly yet?
Apparently not. They report that more than 80% of respondents say their organizations aren't seeing a tangible impact on enterprise-level EBIT.
And EBIT, just for everyone listening, is earnings before interest and taxes, basically, a core measure of profit from operations. So 80% aren't seeing a real impact there yet.
Right, which actually aligns pretty well with Acemoglu's caution about the current economic impact, even if McKinsey sees massive potential down the road.
So the big returns are still pending, even in the optimistic view.
Exactly. And this is where it gets interesting because despite the different forecasts on the scale of impact, both sources seem to converge on how companies should approach AI.
Ah, okay. Common ground.
Yeah, particularly around the importance of strategy and, well, putting humans at the center. McKinsey, for example, points out that leaders, not the employees, are often the biggest barrier to scaling AI.
Leaders are the barrier. How so?
By underestimating how much employees are already using it, how ready they are, like we discussed, and maybe by keeping AI stuck in small, localized use cases or pilot projects.
Instead of thinking about system-wide transformation.
Precisely. McKinsey emphasizes the need for inspirational leadership to move beyond pilots to truly transformative applications. It's a call for leaders to maybe turn the mirror on themselves.
Okay, so leadership is key. And that actually sounds quite similar to Acemoglu's point about needing a clear, synergistic strategy, not just blind investment.
It does. It aligns beautifully with Acemoglu's whole pro-human approach. His call to use AI to augment the capabilities of your workforce and enable them to create better and newer goods and services.
Empowering humans, not just trying to replace them or cut costs.
Exactly. So it seems like even though they start from different places regarding the pace and scale of change, they arrive at similar conclusions about what needs to happen for AI to be truly successful.
Right. So let's try and distill that. What are the key strategic imperatives that emerge from both of these perspectives for you listening, for your organization?
Okay, I think we can pull out a few core themes. First, definitely visionary leadership.
Beyond just managing projects.
Right. McKinsey says leaders need to stretch their ambitions towards systematic change and have a genuinely inspiring vision. Acemoglu implies the vision needs to be about new value, not just efficiency. So leaders need to articulate how AI fits the bigger picture.
Makes sense. What's next?
Second, a clear employee focus. McKinsey stresses investing in employee training and skill development, especially given how ready employees seem to be.
Capitalize on that eagerness.
Exactly. And this directly supports Acemoglu's view of augmenting human capabilities. Train people to work with AI effectively.
Okay. Visionary leadership, employee focus. What else?
Third, human-centric design. This is core Acemoglu, but McKinsey touches on it too. Prioritize how AI can work with human decision-makers, how it can enhance judgment and creativity to make a big difference in terms of the new things that you do.
AI is a partner, not just a replacement tool.
Precisely. Fourth, and this is crucial, robust governance.
Ah, the guardrails.
Yeah. Establishing strong AI governance, risk management, addressing things like inaccuracy, cybersecurity, IP issues. McKinsey notes only 17% of C-suite leaders prioritize ethical benchmarks right now.
Only 17%. That seems concerning.
It does, but building those guardrails is vital for trust and long-term sustainable adoption. You can't scale effectively without them.
Good point. And finally,
strategic roadmaps. Develop clear plans, track KPIs for adoption and ROI. Move beyond just pilots. Make AI an integrated part of the business strategy, not just a side experiment.
so get serious about implementation and measuring impact.
Exactly. Without that, even the best vision or the most eager employees might not lead to real enterprise-wide change.
That's a really helpful synthesis.
Yeah.
And it's also worth quickly mentioning the sources do hint that this isn't a one-size-fits-all situation, right? The impact varies.
Oh, absolutely. McKinsey points out that industries like healthcare and tech seem to be leading AI investment right now, while others, maybe financial services, are spending a bit less currently.
And certain job functions see more potential.
Right. Areas like sales and marketing, software engineering, they apparently hold the largest share of potential economic value from GenAI. So the journey, the impact, the right strategy, it'll definitely look different depending on your industry and the specific roles within your company.
So that general optimism or caution really needs tailoring to the specific context you're in.
Definitely. Context is key.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this deep dive up. On one hand, we've got this picture, mainly from McKinsey, of enormous, potentially revolutionary AI potential, driven by these incredible tech leaps.
And fueled by a surprisingly eager workforce. It's a call to think big, aim for that super agency, unlock trillions in value.
But then, on the other hand, we have Duran Acemoglu urging, well, maybe not caution, but a different focus, emphasizing AI's current limits, especially in tasks needing judgment, tacit knowledge, social skills.
Right, pointing to the limited actual economic impacts so far, and pushing really hard for us to focus on innovation, on creating new human-centric value, not just automating to cut costs.
He's essentially saying, let's make sure we're using this powerful tool for the right things to augment humans and create new possibilities.
Yeah, that sums it up well. Use it wisely, not just widely for the sake of it.
So the real challenge here, it seems, isn't whether AI will change the workplace. Both sides agree it will. The question is how.
And maybe who drives that change effectively?
Exactly. Will organizations get past that leadership barrier Kingizi mentioned? Will they pivot from maybe somewhat blind investment, as Acemoglu fears, towards truly visionary, human-centric strategies?
Strategies that unlock genuinely new goods, new services, amplify human expertise.
Or will the current focus on maybe narrower automation, on efficiency gains, end up limiting AI's truly profound potential, leaving us with incremental improvements instead of those revolutionary shifts?
It's a critical juncture.
It really is. So maybe a final thought for you as you go about your day. Looking at your own work, your own organization, how might you challenge the status quo? How could you imagine AI not just as a tool for optimization, making current processes faster or cheaper,
but as a true partner for innovation?
Yeah. What completely new opportunities might open up if you combine unique human judgment, creativity, and empathy with AI's incredible processing power and pattern recognition? What could that combination unlock?
Something to really mull over.
Definitely something to think about.